Alright, this video is to help people with getting a perfect first layer. The little dots are because my PIE sheet is just getting damaged, so that's just the nozzle in itself levels. I notice a lot of people on the Facebook group for the K1s when they're having layer issues, quality issues. It is basically because your first layer or any of your other layers, there's getting too much filament. So this is a perfectly tuned first layer. This is with PETG. I have it set at 95%. By the way, so this is with Inlands, PLA plus clear blue. My temperature at 250, bed temp at 80, and I have my material flow at 95. Now, depending on what different types of filaments, the kind, PLA, PLA plus, PETG, TPU, this is how you're going to figure out of if you're extruding too much material or too little. And so I know there are certain tests that Creality has in their tests, but me and myself and a lot of other people, when you do this test, so like this is step one, you figure out which one looks good, you then go back, you do flow rate, so you would pick either 0.5, -5, and then it automatically calibrates, and then when you go to do the pass 2, then you pick whichever one from the previous test that you did, and then it'll G-code everything. But because it does 3 or 4 layers, it's really hard to really figure out like which is the best one. Like my 0, -5, and 5 from the previous test, they all look the same. Like I couldn't tell. So I did a little bit of a more in-depth thing. I'm sure there are other ways, but this one seems to be working well with me. So basically what you need to do is these printers don't need any tweaking. They're very they're basically set up and go. The only thing that people still need to focus on that I see a lot is stop using their speeds. Their factory speeds are way off. So you can see I have my PETG at 120. Their factory is always 300. None of these filaments, yes, they can run 300, but you're gonna get more failures. The one thing I had noticed is not everybody's, sorry about the fan, let me turn it off for a second. Not all the stickers, or not all the units are coming with these stickers. Screenshot this, do whatever, but this is a good baseline for your temps, your hotbed, your speeds, which is the most important thing. The volumetric speeds are already correct, and then don't worry about the fans. Creality's already figured all that stuff out. The other important thing is please get a dryer. I don't care what other people say, it's brand new, dry your filament. Back to the layer test. So I did a couple tests. I created a failure. So basically at 100% film extrusion, you might get what seems like bed adhesion issues. It's popping off. Your first layer is completely failing. It'll start peeling, it'll bubble up, it just goes horrible. The one thing that indicates that you're extruding potentially too much, it could be that you need to clean your bed and re-glue it. If you find that your first layer does this, clean it off, re-glue it. If you're still finding that it's still producing issues like this, then you're probably over-extruding. And so you get very little big peaks, valleys. You know, some of it look fine, some will look like crap. The basic issue is it's just extruding too much filament. I don't have a microscope, so I kind of drew. So basically, this is when it swipes, you know, you're having even lines that meld with each other. They basically melt together. But the issue is when you're actually extruding too much filament, the filament has to go somewhere. So basically the little high peaks that you're seeing like right here is basically the filament is rolling over and going up. It has to go somewhere. And so basically you'll have clean layer, clean layer, clean layer, you know, bump, bump, bump. But if you think about it, each, you know, some prints could have 3,000, 5,000, 8,000 layers. I know 8,000 is probably extreme, but you gotta think all that adds up. That's building more filament than it should. Yes, the filament can go in between it, but the cleaner the layers, the cleaner the print. The other issue is when you have stuff like this, let's say you have even squares, but when you start to get this filament that peaks up, it might push more of that filament up, causing, you know, your layers to not be, you know, perfectly even. So just kind of a thought of, you know, you really need the perfect amount of filament. So within the tests of doing it, I do a flat circle at, come on, where's my scaling? Sorry, I'm trying to do this through my phone. A 0.2 layer, because I'm doing a 0.2 layer with a 0.4 nozzle. And so basically that's gonna get you, you know, a first layer with nothing over it. So once you're able to find out how little material, so we go under material, how little material you use, you'll be able to get here, and then we'll go to the next step where we do a 0.4 millimeter layer. With inland, I'm usually around 95% material flow rate. With Overture PLA Plus, if I remember correctly, I was down to 88% because that material just liked to flow out of the nozzle. So keep playing with it. So here's a little tip to help to know when have I gone too far and then when to go back. So when I'm doing each of those little discs, we'll call them, coasters. I don't know if that's a general term throughout the States, but it's a Minnesota thing. We call them coasters. Keep going down 5%. So from 100 to 5, 90, 85, until you find you get to the point where I did not have it. Basically, you'll start seeing when you pull this off the bed, you'll pull it off in strands. You've gone too far, because I was able to pull this off in one piece because each of the layers has basically melted with each other. You'll want to get to the point, to here. You could do a 2-layer, and if I can get this right, see how you see all the little holes? So this is a 0.4. So you could do a 0.4, but I do a 0.2 to start, because it's quicker and I use less filament. But as you can see, when you get to a 0.4, but you're not extruding, you can see it's perfect. It's literally got perfect little cross hatch patterns, but you're under extruding at this point. You're not allowing enough to flow. Basically, you want it to a point where you can't see any light through it, but you also want where you don't feel heavy ridges in it. Let me pull back up to get a little bit closer. Like I said, you can literally see the holes, or you can see through it. It's almost like a mesh screen. So again, you do your first test at 100. Again, go back to all factory settings. Don't do your settings. Don't do this. Don't change your outer wall. You don't need to change any of that. The only thing you really need to worry about is your temp, your bed, and your material flow rate, and that's all I've done as a beginner in this. That's all I've changed. But do at 100%. Do your first layer at 0.2. If it looks like that, reduce it by 5%. If it comes out like this, you're done. I might also say that you'll want to continue to go further, keep reducing it, and even get to the point where you start to see the little gaps in between, because that'll even allow you to fine tune it more. Because maybe I could do a 92% because maybe I'm still extruding a little bit too much more. Usually what'll happen is this will start to smooth out, but you'll still have the peaks and valleys, or the little mountains on this edge where it retracts and comes back, because when going around a sharp corner like that to come back and forth, that's when you're going to see a lot of the high peaks and valleys. So give it a shot.